Is it good? Is it bad? Is it going away? Is it here to stay? We just can't get on the same page about work from home. I'm Rosemary Miller here with Jenna McGregor, a senior editor here at Forbes, here to give us some work from home data. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jenna.
Thanks for having me, Rosemary. Good to see you.
Absolutely. So, Jenna, based on your reporting, is work from home here to stay?
I think hybrid work is here to stay. I think some time spent working from home is here to stay. I think a lot of the problems that we have around this debate of work from home or remote work often has to do with people not using the right definitions, right? And thinking that this is full-time remote work, working from home 5 days a week, is that here to stay? And I think that will become pretty, not rare, but not increase in number.
Mm-hmm. So, Jenna, what did your reporting find about working from home's effect on productivity?
So what we set out to do with this story is you're hearing from CEOs over and over again with these fairly opinion-driven statements about work from home. And we wanted to do, they're kind of coalescing around four themes. Productivity is getting worse. Creativity is not as good if people are not in the office. Mentorship is suffering, and our culture is getting worse. And is that really true? And so one of the biggest ones, as you asked about, is productivity. You're hearing a lot of debate, and there's been a lot of headlines recently that productivity is CEOs are worried that productivity is declining because people are working from home. And when you look at the data, it's really a mixed bag, and it comes with all kinds of caveats. There's some data that says people who work entirely from home, never in person, that there are some slight productivity declines, about 10 to 20%. But those are looking at very specific groups of workers. They were looking during the pandemic when people had a lot more going on, and they're very hard to extrapolate. Also, most of us do see each other in person, whether it's at an offsite or once or twice a week, or in some capacity. And that data actually shows relatively flat numbers, so really no hit to productivity, or maybe a boost in some cases.
Mm-hmm. So what are business leaders saying about work from home's impact on the workforce?
Well, as you know, I don't think a day goes by where you don't hear a CEO with a statement about why people need to come back to the office. And, you know, a lot of them, I think, are driven by what they see, what they sense. There's kind of one person I spoke to described almost like an executive nostalgia of like the way things used to be and wanting it to go back to the way it used to be. But you're hearing a lot of it kills culture. I think Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan Chase, has hit all of these themes in his complaints about work from home, and it's a lot more nuanced than that.
Mm-hmm. So what is the current state of work from home? Like, do we know how many U.S. employees are working from home versus those that are in a hybrid setting?
There is some pretty good data out there. There's a research group that includes several academics, including Nick Bloom at Stanford. He does a monthly report, surveys thousands of employees, and the data is a big enough group of people that it says the most recent one, this is all employees, right? So not just office workers or people who might be able to work from home. And that one is 59% fully on site, 30% hybrid, 12% work from home. Mm-hmm. But then if you look at just college graduates, it shifts because you've got a different group of people, right? You got people with different kinds of jobs. And in that case, there are a little fewer fully on site. Hybrid number goes way up to like 42%. And again, full-time work from home is about 15%. It kind of depends on the set of numbers you looked at, but that one is one that's often cited.
So what did your research find about how employees feel about company culture as it relates to work from home? I know you touched on this, how it, maybe it's ruining the culture a bit, but is that the case? And if it is the case, is that really a bad thing?
I think it would be a bad thing if you're ruining the culture, but I think that most employees don't think it is. Slack had the company Slack had a research consortium called Future Forum, and some of their data shows that actually people really feel like being able to either work hybrid or from home remotely improves culture. They felt like a stronger connection to their workplace because they had that kind of flexibility. Flexibility is like the number one thing that employees want. And if you're not giving that to them, they are going to assign some feelings about the culture and about the organization that they wouldn't otherwise. So that data really actually showed an improvement in culture. But I don't think we could definitively say, is culture better or worse because of work from home? So much of culture has to do with leadership, has to do with how a place is managed, it has to do with individuals' own bosses and their colleagues. But it's not the kind of fear that culture is going to be ruined because everybody's working from home. I think has been shown that it's not necessarily going to be the case.
So let's focus on young workers for a minute. What about their impact on mentorship opportunities? I know I met my mentor, shout out to you, Diane Brady, by coming to the office. And I went up to her one day and I asked her, can you be my mentor? I wouldn't have that opportunity if I worked from home every single day. So could you speak on that?
I think this is most of the themes that we looked at, there's really a mix of results. This is one that I think most people are somewhat concerned about. If you don't have young people or new people to the company, right? Either young people or kind of newcomers to an organization, you really lose something early on. And so what the data says on this, there's an interesting study that looked at engineers kind of before a group went work from home and during the pandemic, and it really showed that people got more feedback when they were working in the same office. But there's a trick here that you have to keep in mind, and it's not an immediate everybody has to come back to the office, because so many organizations are so global and so big that everybody's not going to be in the same office, right? You work in the newsroom with Diane, but in a lot of organizations, your boss might be based in San Francisco and you're in New York, or your boss might be based in London, or there may be two buildings in the same city. And there's so much distribution and distributed work today that it's not as simple as saying, okay, if everybody's back in the office, it'll be great for young people too. So we have to make sure we find ways to bring people together wherever they may be located.
That makes a lot of sense. And I remember when I first started working here, and I was far more remote than I am now. Now I'm kind of hybrid. I remember feeling, as my first job out of school, feeling anxiety because I didn't know how I was performing. I mean, when you're coming from school and you're getting letter grades and you're always aware of your standing, I don't know, it messed with my head a lot. But when I would come to the office and I would see my boss face to face, that made a difference. So I can see the pros of a young worker going to the office, but I'm still a young worker and I can see the cons as well. There's something about freedom these days. Anyway,
well,
Jenna,
there's also a big difference in what young workers need and what workers with families need, and but I think the key is flexibility. That if there was any theme that came through, it's some level of hybrid work with some combination of work from home and in person is going to stay, and that what people want is flexibility. It's not that they don't ever want to come to an office, that they don't ever want to be in person. It's that they want the choice and flexibility to make some decisions that fit into their lives.
So all in all, hybrid work is what the future will look like.
I don't think there's any question.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Jenna.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.